Chris here, and this is video number 3 in music and technology. What is a MIDI controller? What's its purpose, and what are some of the types of MIDI controllers? Let's discuss. What is a MIDI controller? We need to use something to input data into our computers in order to make music. A MIDI controller is any hardware or software that generates and transmits MIDI data to a MIDI-enabled device. It's used to trigger sounds and control parameters of an electronic musical performance. So you might have a keyboard player, they're going to have a MIDI-enabled keyboard. A drummer may have a MIDI-enabled drum set. A horn player or a person that plays woodwinds may have a MIDI-enabled wind instrument. So the purpose of a MIDI controller is a simple way to sequence music and play virtual instruments on your Mac or PC. It works by sending MIDI data to a computer or a synthesizer, which then interprets the signals and spits out a sound from a VSTI. The different types of controllers are standard keyboards. You can have a standard keyboard. It's either going to be a 88 key size keyboard. You're going to have one that's going to be 25 keys. You may have 61 keys. Generally, those are the sizes. 25 keys are going to be a smaller one. And then there are smaller form factor ones. With a 25 key, you're going to have a very small, like a mini type of keyboard that's probably going to be about the width of a laptop or an iPad. You also have drum pads. Roland makes drum pads for you to input MIDI information into a computer. You also have faders and sliders that are also MIDI enabled that can also send MIDI data to a computer. You have motion controllers. I've seen them on keyboards where you could actually send data if you interrupt like a stream of light or some type of motion that you would make that would send a MIDI signal to a computer. You also have MIDI drawbars that would mimic or that's modeled after the famous Hammond B3. So how are they connected? Most modern MIDI controllers are connected via USB type B connections. In some rare cases, you would see a mini USB or a micro USB. Older connections use a 5-pin MIDI in and MIDI out, and that's been around since the 80s. Unless your computer has a MIDI input, which is doubtful, you're going to need a 5-pin MIDI to USB adapter to connect your controller to your computer. Some keyboard manufacturers still use the old 5-pin system along with a USB Type B connection input. I can control my M-Audio Hammer 88 keyboard controller via USB Type B or through a 5-pin MIDI connection. I use 3 keyboards and a Roland 25 kV drum set for some of the gear that I use to make music. As I mentioned before, I use the M-Audio Hammer 88 mostly to record. I also have a custom built organ using 2 Impact GX61 keyboard controllers and a custom converted MIDI organ pedal board with a custom designed drawbar. And I'll talk about how I built all that in a future video. I'm also a drummer, so when I'm recording drum parts, it helps that I'm on an actual drum set. I also play organ, so the feel of the foot pedal and the upper and lower manuals along with drawbars are helpful. However, please don't think you need to go out and drop hundreds of dollars to acquire all this gear before you can start recording and making music. All you need is a single MIDI controller. It could be an inexpensive off-brand controller no one has ever heard of. I'm sure that you have lots of questions about what type of gear you need, what type of computer, which kind of keyboard, the computer specs, and so forth. I answer all those questions at my free guide. I'll leave the link in the description. You can download it, my Music Tech Jumpstart Guide at mychurchband.com/jumpstart. You may or may not be familiar with some of the terms I use in this video. So if you want to know what a VSTI and a VST is, you can check out this video over here. Or to learn more about hardware versus software keyboards and learn more about MIDI, you can check out this other video.